Tools That Heal and healingcoach.org. You're watching this because you want to know the meaning of diabetes. What's the message? What's the metaphor? What am I supposed to be learning? What a medical intuitive does is assist people to connect the dots between their issues and their illnesses. If you get stuck, give me a call. The reason I'm reading from a script here is not because I copied from a book. You can request and read a full history of the literature in this field by emailing me. The free report is called The Meaning of Illness is Now an Open Book. There is so little literature that not only did I have to write this stuff, I had to invent a lot of new language to go with it. So this is mostly brand new stuff and very difficult to just come off the top of your head. You have to really kind of sort it out. And it's a lesson. It's a lesson. It's like a lesson. We live according to our stories. There's a lot to say about diabetes because it's very related to the large topic of how we use story to create our lives, both functional stories of health, wealth, and happiness, and dysfunctional stories of woe is me, poor me, I don't have enough. The idea of living by stories overlaps somewhat with the TA idea of life scripts. You can see Redecision Therapy for more on that. Where my take on scripts differs is I find there's much more penetration of these stories possible if we approach them and view them as fairy tales. Fairy tales have more resonance with our sub and unconscious than does the metaphor of scripts. So instead of saying as TA does that we live by our scripts, I say we live by our fairy tales. I believe our left side is more quickly and deeply affected by stories, good and bad, than is our right side. This also suggests women are more affected by stories they tell themselves, stories they hold in their bodies, than are men. That's largely true also, though both are true. Consequently, women especially will grasp the themes around diabetes and digestion as presented here. We're talking about left-sided function in the body, the side of our yin capacities. Diabetes is a left-sided illness. Get that real clear, and that will help you. TCM addresses spleen-pancreas issues in both men and women this way. Spleen energy is characterized as the sweetness of life. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. I've got so much honey, even the bees envy me. This quote of the Old Temptations song comes from William Wisenant in his book and is found in updated and expanded form in my Meridian Metaphors Manual, where you can read a complete discussion of the psychology of the spleen meridian and the associated organs of omentum, stomach, pancreas, and spleen. Where is sweetness in your life now? The lack of sweetness in life is therefore the first top headline in spleen-pancreas dysfunction. In adulthood, at least, we use food sugars to take the place of the inner sweetness of life. It really is that simple. That, of course, includes simple carbohydrates of any kind. Focusing on where the sweetness of life is for you now is one way to start healing the spleen function. The spleen is meditating on the sweetness of life, and pancreas, the spleen pancreas. They're meditating on the sweetness of life, or its absence. If you have the absence of sweetness in your life, the spleen pancreas function starts to deteriorate, taking you to diabetes. We can increase or decrease our awareness of this ongoing meditation on sweetness, and we can correct it, but it does take some changes to your life. And why wouldn't you want to change your life if you've lost your dream? Dashed dreams and giving up on dreams. After sweetness of life comes the topic of dashed dreams. Following a dream, taking concrete practical steps on a daily basis towards our goal, is what keeps life sweet. Healthy left-sided function includes having a dream similar to a fairy tale that you tell yourself to make sense of the tiny itty-bitty things that you do on a daily basis. If you don't have a goal you're working towards, What's the sense of what you're doing? You're just working for a paycheck? Well, that works for the conscious self, but it doesn't work so well for the spleen pancreas. This is how any kind of goal setting and success training is connected with story and fairy tales you tell yourself. Your goals and dreams are the frame, the container for the little personal details and the setting up of systems that you do in success and goal setting training. Because your dreams, the happy ending fairy tale you tell yourself about life, is a primary function of your whole left side, it means the loss of a personal dream is the classic disturbance to left side function, including diabetes. The loss of a dream can look like loss of a childhood sweetheart, loss of a business, or failure of a fantasy to come true. This can happen as early as 5 years old and is not limited to adults in my experience. Children have this too. Not all children. Conventional schooling and virtually all K-12 schools, except Waldorf Methods schools, can be characterized as parent and administration-centered rather than child-centered. Waldorf Method educators clearly have the greatest fund of theory and methods on how to encourage, sustain, and nurture a child's own sense of self and a child's own unique personal dreams. Waldorf Method schooling is healing to left-sided energy. This goes far to explain why so many adults, as Waldorf teacher trainees, gain so much personal healing out of the training. They gain, regain, or create fairy tales of a positive vision for themselves and for children and for humankind. Waldorf Methods training really can do this. A good question to ask if you have or think you may later have diabetes is, what are my dreams? What am I doing today to make them manifest? If the answer is nothing, then you have the opportunity now to connect an issue and a possible illness. Dependency. Diabetes makes some people dependent on insulin on a daily basis. As Deb Shapiro says in Your Body Speaks Your Mind, it's hard to be independent if there is constant dependence on insulin. This can create dependence on the home environment. Diabetic children may live at home longer than others. In the context of what else is covered here, insulin dependency raises questions like, who or what am I dependent on now in my life? Who or what do I wish to become independent of? If I was independent, what would I do? How would I live my life differently? Conventional schooling rarely prepares us to respond well to these questions effectively. Again, please find a safe place and safe people to discuss your issues with and what you're doing with your dreams, and if you don't have one, how to get one. Hypoglycemia. As a recovered hypoglycemic, Deb Shapiro sums up my experience well. It may be you have given too much of yourself to others and there's nothing left to give yourself. You need time to replenish, to come back to your own being, to receive some nourishment, perhaps at a deep level. Hypoglycemia also suggests a desire for affection and an unsettled emotional part, that will be the inner child, who requires constant reassurance because it has lost trust and faith in its own healthy instincts. We could put right in there, it has lost trust and faith in its own happy ending fairy tale. Self-forgiveness is always a good place to start. Here's how it goes, and I have this written several places, and it's written up at Tools That Heal. I forgive myself for giving up on my own dream. First time, second time, 3, 4, 5. Keep counting as long as energy moves on that.